Hello, Mark.
Oh, hello, Neil.
I've got a couple of things for you.
Oh, nice.
Box of donuts.
Lovely,
first
thank
and foremost.
Very generous.
And this, an Acorn Electron Hello Cave Dwellers. Yes, some of you will be familiar with this if you're long-time viewers of the channel, because it has appeared in a Trash to Treasure series, but every computer has its own personal journey, and we need as many computers as possible for the exhibition space. Now, I know that this computer, yeah, it's filthy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be green, but we'll come on to that. I know this computer you have a very personal connection with, don't you, Mark?
Not this particular one, I hasten to add, but the Acorn Electron was my first microcomputer, yes. My mum got it for me in 1984?
That'll be about right. It came out in August of '83. It missed the '82 Christmas rush, which was really crucial to its success or its failure. It really did suffer because of that. But that's not to say it didn't deserve better, because it is a great machine. It's a great machine for programming on, not least because it's got the amazing keyboard with the footer bar ML switches.
Bless you.
Metal leaf switches. And it's amazing that it had such a great keyboard in such a low-cost machine when you compare it to the ZX Spectrum and the other British micros of the era. Now, I found this in a box last week when I was doing the DIY episode, unboxing everything from the old cave and putting it into the storeroom, and it just seems such a shame to see it languishing there in the box, especially with that green sticker, especially with that filth. Who knows what it will evolve into if I leave it for another 10 years.
Probably grown to an oak.
So I think we need to give it what it deserves. We need to clean it up cosmetically. We need to check it out electronically. I've never even plugged this one in.
Oh, that's exciting.
So, yeah, any tips, anything we should check before we put power in?
Insurance, fire insurance. No, these are pretty robust, so you either plug them in or they work. They don't explode or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, 19-volt AC adapter. We'll go and dig one of those out.
Right.
Let's take it over to that telly there and see what we're up against, Mark.
Exciting times. Let's go. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. You can get an instant quote on a variety of services, or browse a library of talented makers' designs, add them to your cart, and have them delivered directly to your door.
So the first thing we need to do is see if this electron can fire up or if it's a spent force. And on testing, the screen gives us a blank white page. That's not what we were hoping for, but it is at least a sign of life. But we have seen this sort of problem before, haven't we, Mark?
Yes, this symptom's commonly caused by an issue affecting ULA. White screens, garbled text and random resets are all linked to one thing: having a dirty socket.
It's not just us that the Ferranti ULA is causing problems for today. Difficulties in its production were what caused Acorn to miss that important Christmas sales season in 1982. It's such a beautiful looking thing though, I think we can forgive it for now.
In a majority of cases, all we need to do is gently clean the pins of the socket with some isopropyl alcohol.
I'm just using a cotton bud with some IPA. We don't want to use anything more aggressive or mucky on the soldered socket or on our precious ULA.
With the chip and socket cleaned, Neil reinstalls the package, carefully locking the spring-loaded plate into position. We decide it's worth another test, and knowing that the Elk won't boot without the keyboard attached, we pop that back on.
As Mark hooks up the Electron, I cross my arms, fingers, legs, eyes, everything I can for good luck.
I'm nervous because you never know how these things will turn out.
We're holding our breath.
And success!
Everything seems to be working now, which is fantastic, but this little Acorn is covered in dirt.
And those capacitors could do with a service anyway. I'll remove the power supply and main computer boards from the case. I want to wash the plastics, and these capacitors are decades past their shelf life. The Acorn Electron is one of the easiest computers to work on. Everything's so accessible.
Inside the case we can see how dirt and grime have been attracted to the warmer parts of the machine. No wonder that socket needed a clean after all this time. Just give it a yank, Mark, it will come out.
The recapping starts okay. There's not many capacitors inside an Acorn Electron, even if you include the power supply. Things are going well and I'm in the groove. But then Neil's desolder gun stops working. And I start having trouble clearing the holes.
Luckily for us, the cave is above an electronics company and our kind friend, neighbour, landlord lent us his desoldering unit. Are you happy now?
Sounds like top 10 single.
The right tool for the job makes all the difference, and this more industrial tool allows Mark to press on and complete the job faster. While Mark was doing the easy part, I was designing a new decal for our grotty Electron. It's not a huge task as graphic design goes, but I wanted to get it looking as good as possible, and I also used a little bit of artistic license to play with a few different options. But on presenting them to friends, the general consensus was that we should keep it looking as original as possible, but I did place a small RMC logo on the label so that on very close inspection, everyone will know that this is a replica. We're not trying to fool anyone here. I think I'm just about done, so I need to go and get these printed off. How are you doing?
No, I'm done as well. I think you might want to prepare the gloves.
Okay, we'll go and get some soapy water and give that a good clean.
Whilst we washed our bits and bobs, Neil regaled me with tales of how many copies of Elite he has. The soft brush really helped to get into the texture on the Electron's case.
Over on my table, I found my keycap puller and it's in full swing, making short work of removing those footer bar ML keycaps so that they could go in for a hot wash in the soapy tub. So far so good, and as keyboards go, this is a really easy one to strip for cleaning. The keys just pop straight off. Even the spacebar, often the bane of restorations, was relatively easy to remove. And I wasn't going to tackle all this gunk and grime myself, so I got Mark involved in the job. Mark, I've got the debris off there. Do you want to give it a bit of a fingertip clean, and I will do the keycaps?
Oh, thanks. I think.
You're welcome.
I get to work cleaning the keyboard base plate. There's a bit of gunge, but mostly some minor environmental corrosion.
Those keys are coming up great, and while some are still slightly yellow, it's not to the degree that we might consider retro writing or the trials and tribulations of peroxide baths and UV lights.
It's nice to see someone happy in their work. Neil sure does love a cleaning montage.
I certainly do, Mark. I certainly do. With the keycaps all shipshape and shiny, we can get rid of the water and get the keys dry now. As usual, I'm using my high-powered electric duster, which not only provides enough air pressure to drive water out of the nooks and crannies of the keycaps, it does also get nice and warm, so it makes short work of drying off the keys. Weirdly, the spacebar support seems to have been stuck in with some kind of silicone sealant. It doesn't look as clean as I would expect it to do coming out of a factory. Is that standard? Does anyone else out there know? Or has someone tried to stick these back in?
Over on my table, the upper and lower case are dried and ready for reassembly. Apart from the hideous label, the case looks really good now. Neil is lagging behind because he's playing a game to see how far he can shoot the keycaps across the cave. In the meantime, I've reassembled the keyboard in a totally random order.
Using the magical heating powers of the air duster, I warmed the original faded decal out. I didn't want to put a heat gun on there because I didn't want to risk damaging the plastics, and it did just enough to loosen the adhesive holding onto the case. Or nearly well enough, because it did leave some of the glue and the print decal on the Electron, but at least we haven't melted anything in the process, so a bit more heating helped again. And for the residual sticker on there, I found that IPA and a bit of elbow grease soon shifted that, so we had a nice clean space for our new decal.
With the old faded decal removed, I reinstalled that luxurious keyboard.
The build quality of these machines really was incredible when you consider it was aimed at competing with the budget ZX Spectrum.
We need to clean the edge connector next. There's no need for Brasso here, we're going to be safe and use a rubber. Then remove any rubber residuals with a wiping of IPA.
Then we pop the boards back into our fresh clean case.
And with the board secured, we reconnect that clicky-clacky keyboard.
And reinstall the speaker.
It's a very snug fit, so no real need for any hot snot. One last push to get the case screwed together now.
Our decals have printed well, thanks to the guys at One Click Print, but while I do like the glossy versions, I think the matte versions better convey the quiet dignity of the Beeb's younger sibling. Carefully aligning the lower edge to the recess on the computer, we apply the new decal, and it really does restore its look and its dignity. This has come out far better than I was expecting.
What a difference that's really made, Neil. Look at the old faded decal now.
And our RMC logo is stealthily hidden away.
So before we had a broken, dirty, faded and disgusting Acorn Electron.
And now, what a difference. Working, looking sharp and ready to be used again in the RMC exhibition area. Mark, our little elk is looking very proud there, almost as good as new. What do you think?
I think it's come out a lot better than I was expecting, and this sticker I think looks fabulous, especially compared to the really green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was worried about it actually. I wasn't sure if it was going to look quite right, but as soon as it was on there, it looked great. And we're not trying to fake it or anything like that. Just down here, there is a little watermark of the RMC logo, just so future generations can know that that's not a genuine sticker.
Yeah.
And then go back and watch the video and find out why it's on there. But overall, I'm really pleased.
Wasn't the most difficult fix, but you know, they don't all have to be difficult. The fact is, we started with a non-working machine, and now we have a working machine that isn't going to give anyone a nasty disease if they touch the keyboard.
Exactly. And it's such a lovely keyboard, not only to use, but in terms of cleaning, those keys just come off really easily. The only key with a piece of metal is the space bar. The rest, they just come off. They just want to be cleaned. They do. So if you've got an Electron, you've got no excuse not to clean your keys. It's looking good. The only thing that's left to do is to actually test it out and use it and enjoy it. And you've got a really special way of doing that, because in the past I've used this. This is a big old interface called the Plus One interface. Yeah. And then I had an SD card adapter plugged into it, which I'll still use on my other Electron. But you've got something a bit more modern again than that. What have you got there?
We've got an ELK SD 128. And what this is not only an SD card device.
With a noisy bag.
With a really noisy bag. But it also has a joystick interface.
Aha.
Yeah. And 128K of additional RAM.
Why? That's a ridiculous amount of RAM for an Electron.
I absolutely have no idea. But what I'm hoping is that some of the files on this card might actually show us this when we get to play some games. But anyone who had an Acorn Electron back in the day will know that joysticks were pretty much non-existent.
You needed something like this because there's no joystick port on there.
There isn't.
For example, this is the Commander 3 joystick interface, which slots in the back, and all it does is give you a single joystick interface.
Yes, and even then, if the software didn't support joystick, that wouldn't do anything.
So it didn't map to keys or anything like that?
Didn't map to keys or anything. But this emulates the 4 popular joystick interfaces of the time, or you can map keys before you load the game.
Oh, great. Okay.
Which is
so games that don't support joysticks, you can get around that with that.
And most of them work, some won't.
And the nice thing about this is it's in a nice 3D printed case.
Yep.
It's a no exposed PCB.
It's got a really good solid heft, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to trying that. And I imagine I use it in the same way as the other interface. So is it Control Escape, Shift Escape?
Shift Brake.
Shift Brake.
Keep holding Shift and then release Brake, and it will boot into the menu.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's go and try this out, and we'll cut to some gameplay footage and some more shots of the machine in action. I hope you've enjoyed seeing it restored today. Mark, thank you as always for joining us. Thank you for watching, and enjoy a little bit of the Acorn Electron in action over in the exhibition space. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And I must extend my thanks to Ramtop Retro for supplying the ELK SD128. The joystick functionality is a real boon, although it doesn't work for all games.
Just seeing a modern stick like the Monster working on the Electron is amazing to me as an original Electron owner.
The key mapping feature is also handy, although again compatibility can vary from title to title, but for those it works in, it makes a real difference. I really love the look of the Electron on this Trinitron screen, so reminiscent of the days of 80s computing, and with that colour scheme that brings back memories of the teletext service.
I think this game was called Blagger because anyone who told you they'd beaten it was lying.
It's totally unforgiving. It really is an unforgiving game.
Repton 3 was one of the games I had back in the day, and it was no way a Boulder Dash rip-off. No sir.
It's a really good game, but the playfield is so small compared to the BBC Micro version.
I love the graphics, the colours are bright and vivid, and I think that British computing in the 80s could have been radically different had the Electron met that Christmas sales deadline.
Who knows what this machine has gone through in the past, but now the Acorn Electron can take its rightful place amongst its peers in the exhibition space.
I am a robot. I am programmed to recast 8-bit microcomputers from the 1980s.